There's a couple different ways to look at this. And the first one I want to talk about is the interpersonal dynamic. Brandon Graham brought that up, sort of unsolicited, right, in his radio show.
And very detailed.
These guys used to be friends, and now they're not anymore.
Life happens.
So, going forward, what effect does that have in the locker room?
Yeah, I tend to think it doesn't have much of an effect. I think the issue last year was the team was young and developing, and that was why they had the problems. It wasn't about the interpersonal stuff. I think sometimes that interpersonal stuff gets amplified by the fact that you're struggling on the field. And I think the same thing could happen this year, but they're better this year. Those young guys have stepped up. I think the interpersonal issues that they have potentially between the quarterback, or I guess not potentially, that they actually have between the quarterback and the receiver won't be a problem. You can have beef off the field. Doesn't mean that you can't produce on the field.
I think it affects you on the field. I think that when AJ addressed this, if it is a personal issue, he didn't address it, say, hey, what's the problem? Hey, we need to get better, personally between us in our relationship. No, it comes into passing. Now he feels like if there is an issue, you're not throwing me the ball because we have an issue. We have to throw the ball. I had 4 targets and 4 catches, and I didn't get the ball enough. So that's where it starts to affect the on-the-field product. Last year, it was something similar. You remember when A.J. Brown had his blow-up on the sideline? It was very animated, and it was the first inkling we got that there was an issue on this team. And then, in my opinion, this offense kind of suffered because it seemed like they were starting to force the ball in that direction in times when it wasn't warranted. So I do think the interpersonal relationships, if that is the case, the way that Brandon Graham described it, can affect what happens on the field.
I can tell you this. I played a long time in the NFL. And
how long, Jeff?
I had 14 years.
Oh, my God.
And I can assure you, we didn't all get along.
Right.
Okay? And the bottom line is, whether you get along with guys or don't get along, you can still play through that. I had guys that I played with that basically didn't speak to each other for a season.
Who's that?
Right? You would come in the huddles, go out of the huddles. I had offensive linemen who didn't want to get along with each other. And guess what? It's just part of it. You just get through it and you go play, and we won a lot of games. A.J. Brown is still playing hard. If you watch him, he's blocking, he's got 4 targets. What do you have? 4 catches. So you're still winning that way. As you're looking at players who are still buying in, here's the other part.
All that matters to Jeff is if you're blocking. You're like, hey, I don't care about nothing. A.J. Brown is blocking.
Okay.
So everything is all right.
And why does that matter?
AJ, I'm blocking too damn much.
Why does that matter?
That's why he's
Because Saquon's taking that thing to the house, and you won 9 games in a row. That's what matters. Here's the other point. I just want to make this very clear. Vic Fangio was not on their staff last year. Kellen Moore was not on their staff last year. Both of those coaches understand how to win games. So the interpersonal portion, although it may be, we might talk it up in that locker room, they will squash this thing to go win games.
Here's the problem, because the Eagles and microscope on them. This isn't anything.
Yeah.
It's
self-inflicted.
And here's the thing: if this season ends in ridiculous fashion like last season, we can't look at just this year in a vacuum. We have to go all the way back to last year. So yes, Vic Fangio wasn't here and Kellen Moore weren't here. But if this season somehow ends in the first round or something happens, Nick Sirianni, and there's late game mismanagement, all that, we're going to have to look at this season in totality. We're going to have to look at last season. The collapse last year, the loss in the playoffs last year, the Jalen and the Sirianni of it, the AJ and the Jalen of it. And this team is too talented for us to be talking about, man, they're not getting A.J. Brown the ball. It's like they've won 9 games in a row, and this is what we're talking about because of them.
But to the football of it, right? They aren't passing the ball particularly well. Early in the season, it was explosive plays down the field. A lot of A.J. Brown, right?
2 and 2.
Right. So, okay.
And
they
then
had 83 passing yards in beating Carolina. You're not going to see Carolina in January. Can they play like this the way they've been playing and beat the Detroit Lions in a playoff game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be much harder, obviously. You want to be able to play in multiple different ways. You can't predict how the game is going to go. Fortunately, they have a big, tough offensive line, so they can often determine the style of the game is going to be played. But you need to be able to have the flexibility to attack downfield. And their offensive scheme, I think, is more simplistic than you would want for a team with as much talent as they have. And I think that's in large part because of Jalen. And I think that can bleed out into the rest of the team. That could be come on, we can do more than this. We can do better than that. Okay. Why aren't we doing it?
I'm going to say this part about the football side of it. Jalen Hurts does not play quickly at the quarterback position. What do I mean by that? His offensive line is one of the best and the highest performing, not only in the run game, but in pass protection. He still takes a bunch of sacks and hits. So if you're an offense who doesn't want to get behind the chains, you're not going to dial. It doesn't matter who you play.
And you're good at running the ball.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who you play. Like we talk about, if you're going to play the Lions. No. You let the game script you into what you have to do. If you're taking sacks, you're getting behind the chains. You can't overcome that. So if your quarterback's not playing in time of routes, getting the ball out of his hand, and your receivers can be upset, but at the end of the day, if you win games because of the style of play, you have to stick with what gets you there. You can't just change. You have to try to take advantage of what's there.
They point out the sacks. They point out the lack of turnovers. Kellen Moore mentioned it the other day.
Sure. One
turnover by Jalen Hurts since the bye. Like, is this the way they have to play? And is it okay if you're a wide receiver? Can you accept it?
The reality, if you zoom out, now I'm a wide receiver, and I get A.J. Brown's frustration. 4 targets, 4 catches. Keep coming to me. I don't care if they're draped on me. If they're playing me that way, give me the opportunity until I prove I can't do it. But at the same time, to Jeff's point, this team is playing better than it was earlier in the season.
Yeah.
And if you're truly zeroed in on the actual goal of hoisting a Lombardi, these aren't conversations you should be having when you're winning football games.
That's where I disagree.
Well, look, it's like this is the tough part about Philadelphia. They have a bunch of all-pros.
Yeah.
And with all-pros come egos. The Philadelphia egos are what is the biggest obstacle for them.
I
And
like that.
That's good. I like it.
thank you. I like it.
Like Eagles, but ego.
See what you did there.
Yeah, you could all use it. It's cool. But the issue is they are winning football games.
Right.
Yeah.
And yes, you want to be better. Yes, you want to contribute the most because every all-star player does. But that is the reality. If this is an issue you have, A.J. Brown, which as a receiver I'm okay with. The way to communicate that is in the locker room.
For sure.
The way to communicate that is in the team. Brandon Graham. Like these should be internal issues that we should never have light of day of.
Quick final word.
They have champagne problems. They're not the only team that has a ton of all-pros or talented players. Like the Ravens have this issue. Like other teams, the Lions have this issue. And I don't believe that you have to be multiple. Like one thing I love about Dan Campbell is says we have to be able to beat you any type of way given the opponent.
Sure.
And the Eagles have to be flexible and they have to improve the passing game. But to your point, they can't be talking about it in the public.
This might get solved against the Steelers. Because the Steelers stack a box and play man on the back end, which they like to do. Brown might have a big day. Then everybody's happy. They win, everybody's happy.
Welcome to John Crowder's show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm back again with another sports show, joining you live from a spot here in the Battery, Atlanta, Georgia. If you ever get time, come check us out. Want to make sure you understand that if you want to see some of the most up-to-date clips, shows, Stephen A. Smith, First Take, Pat McAfee, go ahead and tune in. Every day we're dropping clips and even live shows. So take the time to go ahead, like, subscribe, and even share this content. We're going to be pushing out a lot of content to you free. And also we're going to be giving away live tickets to sporting events. And we'll be live on set at the NCAA Championship, the Final Four, and also we'll be live at the Super Bowl this year. So if you want to win free tickets, make sure you like and subscribe and stay tuned. Put the alert bell on. We're going to keep you up to date with NFL, MLB, soccer, baseball, hockey, all sports, and even giving you free picks on parlays that we hit very often. So go ahead and stay locked in, because if you blink, you'll miss it. Again, I'm John Crowder. Thanks for tuning in. What are some of the most iconic sports for you as far as moments? One of the most iconic sports moments for me was definitely when the Falcons lost the Super Bowl. Even though I'm a Falcons fan, it was heartbreaking, but it was definitely memorable. So that was one of the most memorable, ugliest moments for me as a sports fan. Go ahead and drop in the chat what your most memorable moment in sports was, and we'll be sure to comment and respond to that. One other thing, we definitely want to let you know that we do have sports picks, and we will be putting them in the chat. Our sports picks come with a lot of knowledge, a lot of historical data, and just a lot of professionalism. So if you want to start hitting some of those bets, make sure you follow our picks, and we'd definitely like to help you out on that. All right, this channel is completely free. We don't have any sponsors, so make sure you like, subscribe, and share this to get more content like this and to help us put out more content. Again, I'm John Crowder, and I'm joining you live from the Battery in Atlanta. Stay tuned for more episodes, more shows, and more content.